Hi everyone, and welcome back to the BoccaBroadcast. And I heard some good news that the weather is getting better again. For those of you living in the Netherlands, you probably know. For the rest, Dutch weather is amazing. 1 week it's nice and everyone's out. Well, not right now, but usually everyone's out. And then a week later it can be like midwinter again. But this weekend it's going to be nice and warm again. Even today it's getting a little bit more like less clothing. So, a lot of people might be thinking, what if I wanted a cold coffee drink? Now, cold coffee drinks have lots of different forms, and I wanted to walk through them today. If you have any questions, if you're making some things at home, let me know so we can talk about them. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm going to walk through different ways of making cold coffee drinks and also some tea, because cold tea drinks are amazing. Right, so why would you want to drink it cold? Well, because it's nice out, and a hot beverage, if you just throw some ice in there, the ice will just melt and will dilute it, and you have to wait a long time, so that's not really convenient. There's of course options like iced espresso, iced americano. Especially iced espresso is okay because espresso is a really small amount of liquid, so it'll cool pretty quickly over a cube of ice. An Americano as well, you can make some espresso, add some cold water to cool it down, and then add it over ice. That's a viable option, but like usually larger drinks like filter coffee are a little bit hotter because they're a larger volume, and when you dilute them, they become even weaker. So, how do we solve this? Coffee is usually extracted in cafes with hot water. We use hot water mostly because it goes a lot quicker. Now, there's a lot of things to be said about like extraction and like different compounds, extraction, different temperatures. We're not getting into that today because what you need to know is that coffee will extract with cold water. We just put some cold water on it and it will be coffee, and it'll even taste really good if you use some good quality coffee beans. Now, we're going to go through a couple different methods to do that. Well, the first one is, like I mentioned, it's easy to get cold coffee. You make a batch of filter coffee, and then you make too much. Then you put it in the fridge, and then you wait one night, and the next morning it's cold. That's like the laziest way to do it, I think, especially if you already brewing some hot coffee. But that's with hot water. Now, the second thing you can do is brew some hot water and brew it over ice. Now, that's what we call a flash brew. It's where the flash kind of refers that like it flash really quick, you cool it down really quick. And to do that, I'm going to be making a filter coffee with ice. Now, the noise you heard was my kettle making some noise in the background. And I'm just going to be making sort of a coffee like usual, but there's some differences. Now, the first part is sort of the same. Get my filter coffee set up, got some nice coffee over here, boom. And what we're going to do is I'm going to replace a part of the water that you use for coffee brewing as ice to dilute it. Now, you can't put it in the top brewer because that will get really messy and it will make the temperature really low, and that won't work really well. So I'm going to make some concentrated filter coffee. So normally you get like 60 grams or like 30 grams and then like 500 grams of water. But now I'm going to make the hot brew stronger, and then I'm going to add some ice, which is diluting and therefore also cooling the drink. Now, there are no really hard and fast rules for how much to put in, but I'm going to put like 1/3 of the total volume. So I'm going to be brewing, let's say 300 grams. Usually we say 300, so I would use math. It's hard. 18 grams of coffee. 300 grams. But now I'm only going to use 200 grams of hot water and 100 grams in ice. So I'm just going to add some ice. Boom. It's about 100. And now I need 200 more. Now, usually we rinse the paper filter. We're also going to do it this time, but I'm not going to rinse it in the vessel because that will heat it up and melt the ice quicker. So with my kettle, I'm preheating, and because preheating is really important for extraction, but I'm going to do it in a separate container or in your sink. That's absolutely fine as well. Now when this is done, I just place it on there. Grab some filter coffee. What did I say? 18 grams? Yeah. Looks good. There again. Now I'm brewing with hot water. And got my little spoon to stir it. I'm going to be using like a normal filter coffee method. So for those of you who are wondering, I'm doing I'm blooming. My blooming is called when you put the first bit of water in there, and that the biggest function of that is that the coffee is being saturated with water, so the next water that's going to come in is going to be more efficient in extracting, and that's why the reason that I'm letting it sit for a little while, like 30-45 seconds, for those who are counting, and when that's done I'm going to do the rest of the pour. You can see it's already dripping and it's already cooling, so that's pretty good. And now I'm doing the rest of my pour, and I'm just going to put it on there in one time, in one pour, to conserve the heat. And when I'm done, there we go. Stir it once, and I give it a little small swirl, which will make the coffee bed nice and even. Now, this is going to be ready in a little while, so I can start telling you about the next way to do it, because this is with hot water. Because it's a flash brew, it usually tastes really good. I quite like it when you do it well. And if it's too weak, you use less water or less ice. If it's too hot, you use more ice, so you can play around with it a little bit for a little bit. And obviously, you can add a little bit more ice to cool it down further. Now, next I'm going to show you this baby. This is, I actually quite like this brewer. It's called the Ginga. This is actually a pretty versatile brewer. It is sort of a normal V60-like brewer, but it has a valve, and that allows you to make the water drip through. Now, what that does is that I can close the valve and then put some ice on top. There we go. And then some water. And what's going to happen is I'm going to open this valve only so slightly. So see, nothing's happening right now. I'm just going to fill it up all the way. And usually, if I would do this with a V60, it would just go through like immediately. But now I just have it like this. Just put the lid on. And this brewer comes with a really nice pouring vessel, and it has a nice coffee container. Now you won't use this for a normal V60 or like a pour over, but for this I'm just going to add some coffee. And so a question from Jamio, or if that's how it says, thank you very much. What the best build of smart grind setting is for V60? Well, to get my Ultra Smart, it's a good question. It has the grind settings put on really conveniently. I usually put it somewhere between AeroPress and, let's see, this is filter. I usually put it like in the middle between AeroPress and filter, and then I see if I like the strength and to see if I need to change anything. I would start there for V60 and then play with it a little bit. For immersion techniques like the clever dripper, I would go a little bit coarser, maybe 2 knots. And for some AeroPresses methods, you can make it a little bit finer. But like between those settings, I'd start. Thank you for that question. Now, going back, I fill this up with coffee. Now, usually you hit this with hot water, but now they have a nice little filter added. So the water is distributed equally over the coffee grounds. And now I'm just gonna open the valve. Now this is a little bit too fast. I want to do it a little bit slower. There we go. Now it's dripping, and the annoying part is that I can't show you what's happening, but what's basically, well I can, but it's really slow. They call this cold drip coffee. Now drip coffee is where cold water slowly seeps through a coffee bed. So it's this, but way slower. So this is also going to take 12 hours, I don't know, like, I haven't counted last time, I just leave it overnight. And then I just put this aside, and when this is done, by the end of this video, I'm joking, but like tomorrow we can have a drink. Then, this is called drip, and that's not to be confused with cold brew. So next I'll be making cold brew, and this is cold brew. Cold brew is an immersion technique. So just like the French press, you sit the coffee bed inside of hot water the entire time. This is sitting the coffee grounds into water for the entire brewing time. So they have a really neat fine mesh filter here. This is a device from Hario. I'm bad with names, but Mitsukushi? Something like that. I'm sorry if I butchered that. This is filter, you put the coffee in here, and it's dead simple. You put some coffee in here, like this, or just, scoop it in. And if you may want to make it a little bit stronger, you add more. If you want to make it less strong, you add less. That's no really hard and fast rules. Because it extracts over such a long time, it's fairly easy. Boris is kindly showing me the name Mizudashi, it's called, and it's a brewing device. You can also brew tea in here, and there are a lot of similar devices, bigger and smaller. I think I'm going to leave it at this, and I made a bit of a mess, and I hate that, so there we go. Now, and now we just add some water. Add some water, and you just pour it over, and it's taking a little bit too long, so I'm going to cheat a little bit and just dump the water in here. And now you see that there's already some flavor coming off. Again, because this cold water is taking way slower than it normally would. Let's see, let's put that in there. Let's add it a little bit more to make sure that the coffee is fully submerged, like this. And then I just add the lid. I just wait. This can be at room temperature. You can put it in the fridge. At room temperature will be fine. And it's kind of hard to see, but it's really cool. There's already some flavors flowing off the water, and it's usually way too fast in espresso, or especially espresso because it's inside. It's like sort of dumb comparison. But in filter coffee, it's too slow. It goes too fast, the extraction, to see this. But you can actually see flavors like sweeping off the grounds, which is nice to look at. And tomorrow morning, this takes about 20 hours, and this will be nice and brown. And to show you, I made some yesterday because I think ahead like that. I made some. So this is it. It looks like normal coffee, and yeah. It's very smooth. It's nice. Yeah. So one of the advantages of brewing is cooler, and this is like a hot topic. So it's a cold topic. I won't get into it too much. But Boris is getting tired of my jokes, so I won't make them too much. Is that it puts an emphasis on more like chocolatey, really smooth notes in coffee. So if you like these notes, then this is amazing for you. Some hotter brewing methods usually bring out some different acidity, and that's really depends on what you want. out of a drink, but a lot of people really like this. It is chocolatey like coffee, but it's really smooth as well. So great with some ice in the summer. And I'm planning a cocktail version of this event later, over in like in 1 or 2 weeks. So I'm gonna add some alcohol for not only the day drinking, but also the evening if you're at home on your balcony and you want some to enjoy with the sun. Now, there's basically 2 things you can do here. You can make it a little bit more concentrated. That's when you use way more coffee for the amount of water you use. So for example, this one for the Ginga, you can add just a bit of water and then add like a lot of coffee, and then it'll be really concentrated. Now to drink that, that's not like the best, but if you add some water to it, it will be faster because there's less water, so it'll just finish faster. And also, if you add milk, that's also, with adding milk, it's a little bit more, it cuts through the milk a little bit more, especially when we add ice and dilute that. So we call that a concentrate, so you can make a cold drip or a cold brew concentrate by just doing something more intense. Now, like quickly before I miss that, going back to this brewer, this is a really fancy glass brewer by a fancy company, but this will work with a mason jar. You just put some coffee in there, you put some water in there and just close it and let it sit. And then afterwards, this thing has a really nice filter in it, but you have to sieve it because otherwise, you know, grounds and really gritty mouthfeel. So you can put it through a V60 paper, like V60 paper, but you can also put it through like any kind of stuff, like cheesecloth or like a clean towel, like should also be fine. It's a little bit more messy, but like that's like really easy way. Just like mason jar, coffee, water, wait. And what we didn't discuss yet as well is tea. Because tea, just like coffee, can be made with hot water, but also totally with cold water. Cold brew tea. Actually, I haven't tried cold drip tea too much, but that's mostly because tea is way more coarse than coffee, so the water will seep through a lot quicker. But you know, actually, might try this with tea. I'll share what happens if it's interesting. So I brought a similar brewer, like immersion, like a cold brewer. This is from Quinto, and it's a slightly different aesthetic, but it's basically the same thing. I think it's like a tiny bit smaller. This is called the Capsule Cold Brew Carafe with a fancy name, and there are multiple ones out there. We just like these brands, and we sampled them, and we like them. But they work really similar. Now, put this aside. Cold brew tea works the same. You just have some water, you just have some tea, and this one just has similar mash filter in it. So I'm just going to be adding the tea. I brought some amazing Chinese green tea with me. It's really fresh, a bit hay-like, normally when you brew it hot, but cold, I'm wondering what's going to happen. With cold brew coffee, it makes it a little bit more smooth, and that's a similar process for tea. Now, for this, I take the top off, but that's and then I take some more water and just put it on there. I wish everything was this easy. There we go. For this, the instructions for this brewer say 12 grams of tea for 900 mils of water. You can play around that with intensity, and different kind of teas bring out different flavors. So I would play around that, but that's a good sort of starting point. And then I just put this on, and then this waits for, like, again, tomorrow. And I made that yesterday. This is actually the jasmine tea that we have. It's the same tea, but then scented with jasmine flowers. And yeah, this also becomes, it's actually like, it's almost surprised me because it was so much like hot green tea, or like hot jasmine tea, but cooled down. and it's really nice. It's really cold, really refreshing, and if I'm going to drink it with some ice later. So that's my plan for later today. I have other stuff to do. Don't worry. I hope some of you have questions already. This is basically sort of the rundown. These make great cocktails as well, especially adding milk makes for great coffee, especially the cold brew like concentrate. If you make it more concentrated, adding milk is a really nice beverage. Of course, there's things like a frozen cappuccino where you freeze it, like you put ice and put through the blender. It's really good. That's basically different. Everyone wondering, ice is basically over ice cubes, and frozen is with ice cubes in the blender. The coolest one that I saw, I think, is from Greece. In Greece, they have a frozen cappuccino. No, Freddo cappuccino. Sorry. And they have cold foam, which is interesting. Just like the really thick foamy foam that you like in hot cappuccinos, they make that cold with like old school like milkshake makers, and they have like espresso with ice, and then put the foam on top. Really yummy drink. I tried to get my hands on a cocktail, on a milkshake maker, but they were either really expensive or not very good. So hopefully I'll bring that out and make a Freddo cappuccino, because it's absolutely delicious drink. And when it comes to cold tea, especially some tisanes like herbal teas, especially we have a tea on bar like a herbal tea with hibiscus and ginger. Hibiscus is I love hibiscus because it's really bright, and it's basically like lemonade. It's sweetish, bright, and it looks like really brightly red as well. So if you brew like this, that'll give a really good drink. But you can obviously brew tea the same way that I did with this filter coffee, in the sense that you just put some tea on top and let it put it in the server with some ice, and then it becomes nice and cool. Now, like I said, I was planning to do this with cocktails, so with some booze involved, so you can make some cocktails. And there's one thing I have to mention, because it's been all over the internet, the Dalgona coffee drink. It's also really nice. It's a little bit too sweet for me. I like my drinks a little bit less sweet, but it looks really good. It has a really nice texture. I tried to make it without instant coffee, because we don't have any here, so I tried to make it with espresso. It is possible. It's kind of hard, and it takes at least 10 minutes of whisking, and I didn't want to bore you guys with 10 minutes of me whisking and over shouting the noise of a whisk. So there's plenty of videos, but it's a cool drink as well to make. And yeah, that was a little bit the run through of different cold coffee drinks. The concept is really basic, and because it takes such a long time to extract, it's fairly easy. You just make it, leave it overnight, and then don't think about it. So prep it today if you want to have some cold coffee or some cold tea tomorrow morning, and you'll probably have a good time. I'm seeing that Boris is typing up a question for me right now, so I'll wait a little bit on that. Yeah, I'll probably be trying this tomorrow morning on my balcony. Hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everyone had a good Easter as well. I had some fun. I have a nice balcony at my house, and when I open the doors, I can sit sort of half outside, half inside on a big chair, so that's really nice. GSG918, cool name, bro, or girl, I don't know. I'm sorry, jeez, bad. Is our shop open to buy coffee? Absolutely. Our shop at the Kerkstraat number 1696 is open for takeaway coffees and teas, and you can buy bags of coffee. You can buy some brewing equipment if you want to make some of these things at home. We sell this thing, the Ginga, at our store. We don't sell some of the other equipment we have, but talk to baristas, ask us. I'm usually around for some advice, because we can definitely help you out with that. Now, thank you very much for watching. I had some fun, and it was cool playing around with these different things, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.